All right, there we go. So there's several ways to do this. I'm going to go over the most basic ways, and then after break we'll probably look at more. But basically, starting with Premiere, we've got some sound files in here. And let's say we want to change their volume. There are two ways Premiere looks at volume. There's clip volume and track volume. And over here on this little thing that says show keyframes, sorry, I need to be on the sound one, show keyframes, I can show clip keyframes or show track keyframes. So let me show you with clip keyframes. I will use this button to make a keyframe. Let me extend this up so you guys can see what I'm doing better. So we see this whole track. And again, if you want to change how tall or short tracks are, you just grab between them and drag. I'm going to add a few keyframes. Let's say we want this to start out silent, come up, and then fade out in this particular little clip. So I made my little keyframes, drag it down, and now it's going to kind of fade in and fade out. Now, because I did this to the clip, if I move this clip, the keyframes move with it. Now I'm going to do the track keyframes. And let's say I'm going to add a keyframe here, and one here, and take down the volume, and take back up the volume. So this is going to be quieter on this clip. And it just was a minute ago. Then I can't move clips when I have show track keyframes on. I'm just going to hide the keyframes for a minute. And then I'll move this guy back over here and bring back up show track keyframes. And you can see those keyframes didn't move because it's with the track, not the clip. So if you want to do something clip specific, you can do it here, or you can do the global track stuff. A lot of times that's good if you want to change, all of your footsteps need to be quieter. You can change the track level. If you know that this particular footstep you're using, you want to always have a certain pattern where it fades in, comes up to a certain volume, then fades down. You could do that with clip keyframes, then duplicate the clip, and it's been done for all of your other clips, so you don't have to do this over and over again. So that's kind of the most basic way. You usually want, smooth transition into a sound, smooth transition out, and that's the basic mechanics of how you can do that. You can also I'm going to go up here to the audio mixer, and let me compress this down a little bit so you can actually see this all in here. Let's get rid of some of these video tracks. Just move those up. Okay, so you can see where my track keyframes are here. In the audio mixer, there are a couple of settings you guys need to know about. And we'll get into this. There's so many levels of things you can do with this mixer, but the very basic is change volume. You've got audio 1, audio 2, 3, 4, and however many audios you have. In our case, what we're looking at changing is on audio 3. If I were to play this, it's just going to show the level of audio right now of these various clips. Okay, so let's say we want to play this and change the levels as we're listening to it. Instead of read, which is just reading those keyframes in volume, I'm going to change this to write. Then when I play, let's start this out quiet, I'm holding on to this, I'm going to bring it up, go down, up and down, and then stop playing. And you see all of those keyframes have been recorded for me of everything I was just doing. Sometimes that makes a bit of a mess doing all of those keyframes, but it can be a really fast way to mix. You just go through one track at a time and do some basic mixing, then I can go and zoom in on these guys and delete keyframes. I can do, I'm right clicking. I can say an ease in, and it's going to ease into that transition. So I can get in and change all of these little things. I just clicked and delete, and it automatically draws lines between. So you can get kind of your rough mixing done there, and then use the mouse to control it. Yeah.
I know they have like external ones that you can hook up to the computer that while you're playing it, you can actually adjust the levels. So you can have a level adjuster that you can actually.
Yeah, those control surfaces are great. Yeah. And that's what really makes this tool useful. You set to right any ones you want to change. And then you just can actually have hands on everything. You can't do that with a mouse. And that is what's wonderful about this mixer. Usually I end up just mixing in the timeline because that drives me crazy because I can only do one at a time with this. But some people really prefer it. And if I had a control surface, I would do it all day long instead of using keyframes and mixing that way. But the basic principle is your keyframes control your volume for keyframe volume. So if it's lower, your volume is lower. If it's up higher, volume is higher. So that's how you can change levels and mix back and forth. Yeah?
Let's say you were recording mono of a motorcycle going from left to right, and you wouldn't have left and right speakers, but it's mono. If you did the split mono, and then the mixer up top went from left to right, could you set that as well?
Yep. I was just going with volume today, but we'll jump ahead to pan a little bit. It's the exact same principles, even if it's mono. Instead of showing track, I'm in track keyframes. If I was just in track volume, I wouldn't see this, even though it looks the same. I'm going to go to track keyframes, and right over here, instead of track volume, I'm going to say panner. Right now, this is panned in the middle. I'm going to add a keyframe right here, here, and here. Then let's drag this so we're panned all the way to the right. And then we'll go all the way to the left. And I believe you should be able to hear this in this room. I don't think it's a mono mix down. It's a little hard to hear it, but it would be moving from speaker to speaker. It's tough without, it's another thing, I just have to say this. Big pet peeve of mine, never mix off laptop speakers. You may do your rough mix, but you want to be wearing good headphones or be listening to studio monitors. Ideally, you do both. You listen once with good headphones, like check out a pair of headphones from the equipment office to do your mixing, and then listen out of some studio monitors. It's a good idea, too, to listen to a laptop because so many people will be listening to your work off laptops, but there's a lot you're not going to hear. You're not going to hear noise in the background that would get blown up on a big screen if this were to be played in the theater. You use laptop speakers to start with to save your ears, but then switch, or if you don't have studio monitors. But make sure you listen to your stuff at least once with good headphones before you call it done. Any other questions on this within Premiere? We're going to look at Final Cut in a second. All right, so that's just your super basic mixing. We'll get into some of the theory of that after break. The arrow tool? You mean the selection tool? Yeah, that's just a tool to be able to use to select the keyframes.